good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you've joined us this morning. We have a lot to cover. We're going to start with some viewer comments. Then we've got some general updates from over the weekend. A few things here about New York. So get your comments, get your waves in. First comment came in very early this morning. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning to you. I was watching the news this morning and noted that for a while now, our temperature has been well below normal. So it occurred to me that the tree-hugging Democrats will begin spewing the propaganda that our environmental initiatives are working. It wouldn't surprise me. What's your take regarding how far the left will go in its efforts to undermine President Trump? Well, that's a great question. I've got a lot of comments on that this morning from the Sunday shows that we'll be diving into that here in a little bit. The attacks on Trump. Actually, a scary piece here online. How much chatter has revolved around assassination. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but a great question. Comment from Mark, who also writes in, good morning. Good morning, Mark. President Trump calls Iran's new peace deal totally unacceptable. We're going to get to that in just a second. And gas prices climbed 3% due to it. And the feds are considering dropping the gas tax for some relief. Thank you, Mark. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Yesterday, did you watch NASCAR at Watkins Glen? Well, Shane Van Gisbergen reasserted his claim to the status as the best road course racer NASCAR has ever seen. It's not just that the New Zealander beat runner-up Michael McDowell to the finish line to win Sunday's Go Bowling at the Glen by 7.288 seconds. It was the way Shane Van Gisbergen ran down late race leader Ty Gibbs to the tune of 29.2 seconds in 18 laps. The mythical shark Jaws couldn't have been a more relentless or terrifying pursuer, says Watkins Glen. In defending last year's win at the Glen, Trackhouse Racing's Van Gisbergen scored his seventh NASCAR Cup Series victory, all on road or street courses, and his first this season. He said, unbelievable to win with number 97. Thank you to Trackhouse. We weren't very good in practice, and then qualifying was amazing. Good tweaks, and then today, so what a race car. Ginsberg, oh, look at all these waves coming in. Thank you. So Van Gisbergen came in at first. Second, Michael McDowell. Then Ty Gibbs. Then Chase Briscoe, Tyler Reddick, Austin Dillon, A.J. Allmendinger, Kyle Busch, Austin Cindric, and rounding out the top 10, John Hunter Nemechek. What were your thoughts on the race? I know a lot of people sharing the muddy photos from over the weekend, but of course we had the news that broke on Friday, I guess late Thursday, that next year's race will be in September. Okay, an American passenger returning to the U.S. from the hantavirus-stricken MV Hondas cruise ship has tested positive for the deadly virus, while a second is showing mild symptoms, according to health officials. The two passengers will fly inside biocontainment units during a reparation flight to bring all 17 U.S. passengers from the luxury cruise liner to the National Quarantine Unit at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. The Department of Health and Human Services announced last night, one of the passengers has tested mildly PCR positive for Andis virus, which already claimed the lives of 3 passengers aboard the ship and sickened several others. The other passenger is currently exhibiting mild symptoms. It is not yet known whether they have been tested for the rodent-borne virus. Quote, as of now, the airlift will transport passengers to the ASPR Regional Emerging Special Pathogen Treatment Center at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, Nebraska Medicine in Omaha, before taking the passenger with mild symptoms to a second RESPTC at its final destination. Upon arrival at the facility, each passenger will undergo a clinical assessment and receive the appropriate care and support based on their condition. The World Health Organization has recommended a 42-day isolation period for the passengers of the ill-fated vessel. A staggering 38% of those who get respiratory symptoms from the disease die, according to the CDC. Okay, to Mark's point, Trump reject, and we're going through some breaking news to kick off the program. President Trump last night appeared to reject Iran's latest proposal in the ongoing negotiation over a peace deal, calling the Islamic Republic's offer totally unacceptable. I have just read the response from Iran's so-called representatives. I don't like it. Totally unacceptable, Trump wrote. Now, there's an interesting piece at a time of negotiation. The supposed supreme leader, who we still have not seen, is MIA. Missing in action during these negotiations. The president also warned the country against playing games after Tehran refused to discuss its nuclear program in its latest response to America's peace proposal through Pakistani mediators. Trump slammed the rogue Mideast country for delaying negotiations, historically ranting on the social platform. Iran has been playing games with the United States and the rest of the world for 47 years. Delay, 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 he said. For 47 years, the Iranians have been tapping us along, keeping us waiting, killing our people with the roadside bombs, destroying protests, and recently wiping out 42,000 innocent, unarmed protesters and laughing at our now great again country. They will be laughing no longer, Trump said in an ominous message. Iran responded to Trump by again saying it would refuse to negotiate on its nuclear and missile program for the time being, instead trying to shift focus to ending the fighting and a gradual reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. If the U.S. agrees to these terms, Tehran proposed that discussion on nuclear issues could be negotiated over the next 30 days. Iran allegedly suggested it would be open to suspending its uranium enrichment for an undisclosed amount of time and transferring some of its atomic materials to a third country. But the moratorium would be less than the 20 years proposed by the United States. The Islamic Republic also saw assurances that it would get its uranium back if the U.S. fails to comply with its part of the agreement. The response came as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Mike Walls said the dismantling of Iran's nuclear program is a very clear red line for the president. Trump had stated that Iran cannot be allowed to develop nuclear weapons, with the president vowing yesterday to do whatever possible to confiscate the nuclear materials, saying, quote, "We'll get that at some point. We have it surveilled. You know, I had a thing called Space Force, and they are watching. If somebody walked in, they can tell you his name, his address, the number on his badge. We have that very well surveilled. If anybody gets near that place, we will know about it and we'll blow them up." Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu echoed Trump's warning, saying that the war in Iran cannot end while Tehran is still working on a nuclear program. Quote, "It's not over because there's still nuclear material, enriched uranium, that has to be taken out of Iran," said Benjamin Netanyahu on 60 Minutes. All that is still there, and there's work to be done. You go in and you take it out. It remains unclear what other concessions Iran might be demanding from the U.S., but its response came after the same time that the semi-official Fars news agency, which has close ties to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, published Tehran's vision for the region in the 10-point plan allegedly laid out by Supreme Leader, again, allegedly, because we've yet to see him, Mojtaba Khamenei. Iran called for the full withdrawal of American ships and bases from the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf. Iran touted the strait, which oversees 20% of the world's oil transports, as its property, hailing a new order where all shipments would be managed by Tehran. Along with slamming the Iranian peace delays, the president went on a tirade against former President Barack Obama, accusing his former administration of allowing the Islamic Republic to thrive despite its open hostility with the U.S., saying, quote, "He was not only good to them, he was great, actually going to their side, jettisoning Israel and all other allies, and giving Iran a major, very powerful new lease on life." He claimed Iran hit pay dirt with Obama, with Tehran allegedly receiving hundreds of billions of dollars from the U.S. Quote, "They had never seen money like this and never will again. Finally found the greatest sucker of them all in the form of a weak and stupid American president." So that was President Donald J. Trump last night. Now, also, he reportedly told Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that the negotiations between the U.S. and Iran to end the ongoing conflict are, quote, "Trump's business, not anyone else's." In a post on X, Barak Ravid, a global affairs correspondent for Axios, shared that he had a phone conversation with Trump in which Trump said he did not like the response from Iran regarding a draft agreement to end the war. Trump also reportedly shared with Ravid that he had a nice conversation with Benjamin Netanyahu. President Trump told me that he spoke with Benjamin Netanyahu this evening and discussed the Iranian response with him. However, he emphasized that it was a brief part of their conversation. It was a very nice conversation. We have a good relationship, but this is my business, not anyone else, Trump said in reference to the negotiations with Iran. In a post on Truth Social, Trump also shared that the response from Iran's so-called representatives was totally unacceptable, as we mentioned. So his business and no one else's. Now, according to Jack Reed, a Democrat from Rhode Island, Senator Jack Reed, he said, we're in a situation now because of Trump's discarding the JCPOA, where we have no real insights into or detailed insights into their nuclear program, and they have significantly more enriched nuclear material. They're about estimated about 9 to 12 months away. If they decide, and they haven't done that to develop a nuclear weapon, we have to control their nuclear aspirations. We had controls in place. We could build on those controls. Trump took them away. We're in a much more difficult position. And then he started a unilateral and along with the Israel attack on Iran, and now they're holding the whole world by the oil. They can control commands for their move. I'm not sure what that means. And this is a situation that may have been made worse by the actions of Donald Trump. And now he's floundering around trying to figure out a way to get out of it. And there's no obvious way. Well, long term, I hope it comes together, frankly, because it is in the interest of the United States and of the whole world. But we're in a situation now that in order to negotiate an agreement, we have to give something to get something. The question is, what is the president willing to give up? What are the Iranians willing to accept? And they're now in a better position than they were, ironically, several months ago for many factors. One, the regime is much more militant, hardened, and committed to resisting. Two, they've demonstrated to the world that they can choke off oil coming out of the Strait of Hormuz. They have leverage worldwide now. They are also, I think, in a situation where their nuclear facilities are very difficult to disrupt, destroy, and I don't think they're going to just gladly sort of give off their nuclear potential. We have to have an agreement. If we could get back the JCPOA, and I don't think we can, that would be a huge success for the president. So Democrat Senator Jack Reed saying the Iran situation was made worse by Trump. He's floundering. Cory Booker was on Meet the Press yesterday. Cory Booker believes he's going to be the next president. That's why he does his kind of grandstanding when he had the filibuster that wasn't a real filibuster. He said, so remember, the Strait of Hormuz was not closed at the beginning of this conflict. This conflict has been a massive disaster, and Donald Trump himself is an embarrassment on the world stage. I hear from allies all around the world. He has got us into a trap, and we're effectively in a stalemate with Iran. And the people that are paying the price is the American military. Hundreds injured, 14 lives lost, and the American people collectively were spending billions of dollars more in the price spikes that we've seen as a result of it. This president has no way out. This is going to go on for months, and that pain is going to continue to be felt by people he promised to lower prices for and keep us out of foreign entanglement. So Trump is an embarrassment on the world stage. We got some other international stories. We got a lot to cover this morning, so we're just getting started. That's somewhat your breaking news this morning. We got a few other breaking news stories. A couple things here about the Democrat Party. A lot of chatter about AOC for some reason this morning. AOC, it's been speculated that she may run for Senate. Some even suggesting that she may run for President of the United States. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. What else do we got? I think we're good. I think we're all caught up. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Get ready for Glass Fest, May 22nd through 24th. Brought to you by Chemung Canal Trust. Experience the magic of live glass blowing. From hands-on fun to incredible sights, there's something for everyone. Explore creations from local artisans. 3 days, one incredible celebration. Brought to you by Corning's Gaffer District. On Friday night, it's Drake White with John King opening. On Saturday, Tracy's A Taylor Experience. Join us for Glass Fest, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Temperatures in Elmira will warm up into the 50s with showers expected here across the area for our Monday. Not too bad, just shy of 60 further off to the south here for our day. Our average high is 70, so we are definitely cooler than average. We'll get gusty here as we go towards Wednesday, but it's not going to be too bad here initially. We do have that chance for the morning frost. We will start a little bit on the cool side even into Tuesday. Thunderstorms are possible Wednesday and Thursday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam. Brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. So it is suggested that Vladimir Putin may not be healthy. Russian President Vladimir Putin suggested the war in Ukraine was drawing to a close just hours after he vowed to triumph at Moscow's, what they're saying, puniest Victory Day parade in years. Quote, I think that the matter is coming to an end, he told reporters about the 4-year-long war. Wow. Putin said the U.S., which he referred to as a partner and friend during his remarks alongside the likes of China and India, was eager to help broker a deal. Quote, clearly, they have no need for this conflict as they have many other priorities. But this is first and foremost a matter of Russia and Ukraine. The strongman said he would be willing to sit down with Ukrainian President Zelensky in a neutral country, but only once final agreements to end the war have been reached. This must be the final step, not some negotiations. I have never refused to meet Zelensky. I am not proposing this meeting, but if someone proposes it, then let them come. Whoever wants to meet should come to Moscow, and we will meet. Now, his health is coming into question, as I mentioned. Vladimir Putin has been criticized over his visibly aged appearance at the Victory Day parade, with concerns about the Russian dictator's health coming to the forefront. Reportedly terrified of a coup or assassination at the hands of Ukraine, the despot was labeled a deeply frightened aging dictator by exiled Russian businessman and opposition activist Mikhail Kordovsky. Ukrainian commentator Anton Gershchenko drew attention to an unflattering photograph of the 73-year-old president and his swollen cheeks, writing, the face of a victor and the leader of a superpower. It seems sanctions have even reached Putin's Botox. Observers noted a lopsided pillow-like face, lumpy filler, mismatched cheeks, and a melting wax face. History shows that many dictators visibly age before the fall of the regime or their death. Scientists link this to chronic stress, paranoid fear of losing power, and isolation, which accelerates the body's aging. Putin opponent Nevzlin viewed the shrinking Victory Day parade, which featured no military hardware for the first time in almost 2 decades, as a telling symbol of Putin's losing grip on power. The regime is structured so that the question of its future has turned into the question of one old man's health. Not about elections, not about political course, not about a split in the elites, about a cardiogram, about the appearance of decrepit hands. These are the only place where change is still possible in the country. For this body, like any other, has a deadline. Reports alleging that Putin suffered a cardiac arrest or has required emergency medical intervention, including any specific cardiogram results, are unverified and have been dismissed by the Kremlin as absurd hoax. Never before have security personnel surrounded Putin quite so tightly. Security is always there, that's protocol. But there has never been such hovering. Either Putin himself is afraid and he's being wound up and intimidated this way, which causes him to become fearful and paranoid. Now, this fresh criticism comes as figures for the past month revealed Putin has lost 7,480 military personnel, killed, wounded, and captured over the first week of May. This amounts to one loss every 80 seconds. Now, we also have an update on China. According to Heng Zhang, a global health expert specializing in China, he says China is becoming dangerously overconfident. One of the most widely shared viral memes on Chinese social media today is the American kill line, borrowed from video game slang for the threshold at which a weakened character can be easily finished off. It refers to the widely held notion in China that millions of American families are teetering on a precipice. One lost job, illness, or unexpected expense away from ruin. It has become the prevailing Chinese metaphor for an America seen as mired in economic decay, violent crime, and irreversible decline. This is, of course, false. Violent crime rates in the U.S. are the lowest in decades. The country remains unmatched geopolitical and financial power, and its economy remains vibrant and more than 50% larger than China's. Yet, as Beijing prepares for President Trump's visit this week, I see a dangerous new overconfidence taking hold in my native country based on misplaced notions of American decline. I fear it is fueling a sense of making Chinese leaders more willing to weaponize their nation's power and less likely to back down in future confrontations with the U.S. Without getting too much into this, a simple but potentially effective starting point would be for Washington to ease visa and security barriers for Chinese students and scholars and to expand fading exchanges in tourism, academia, and business. It's been nearly 9 years since an American president visited China, Mr. Trump in his first term. That sort of gap is untenable. Sustained, clear-eyed, and firm U.S. engagement may be the best way to reverse China's misperceptions and reset the world's most consequential relationship. Now, the New York Post editorial board, when we come back, says why Trump shouldn't give President Xi, we'll say, darned thing in the upcoming summit. Well, let's get to it. I know we're going to run a little late, but President Trump heads to China Thursday in an extremely strong position. But President Xi Jinping will try to bluff him into some concessions. One such gambit came late last week as Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi scurried off to Beijing looking for support against Washington, only for President Xi to publicly call on Tehran to end its Strait of Hormuz blockade and come to terms with the Americans. That's supposed to make Trump feel grateful, as if an end to hostilities weren't entirely in China's interest, since 40% of its oil comes through the strait. Equally laughable is the idea that President should bribe Xi to release oil from China's strategic reserve to help keep global prices down. Beijing would be the main beneficiary of any release. This is just a bid to be paid extra to do what you would do anyway. Fact is, China needs to do something. Its economy is in a rapid slowdown with all manner of debt issues that could send it into a tailspin. Trump, meanwhile, presides over a U.S. economy chugging along despite wartime worries, and one that's growing ever less dependent on China thanks to Trump's policies going back to his first term and accelerating now with a series of deals and domestic reforms, securing new U.S. rare earth supply lines. Behind all this, our president knows full well that Xi is playing a long game to displace America as the world's preeminent power, a game Trump is determined to shut down. This includes moves like blocking Beijing's bid to control the Panama Canal, moving Venezuela and its oil from China's camp to ours, and neutralizing Xi's ally Iran, while also exposing the impotence of China-provided defense against U.S. and Israel warplanes. The Iran war's launch prompted Trump to postpone his China trip by 2 months, and has now left him in a far stronger position. Back then, it looked like our president might agree to Xi's demands, and he downgrade U.S.-Taiwan relations, perhaps even block his $11 billion arms deal with the island democracy. Now, if Xi complains about Taiwan, Trump should just tell him to talk directly with Tapia, as he's refused to do for over a decade. More, Trump can demand Beijing finally start making good on its past promises to crimp its fentanyl precursor exports. If it doesn't want to show up on that list of major illegal drug suppliers that Uncle Sam will release in September. China should also beware repercussions if it keeps up with the White House calls industrial-scale theft of U.S. AI models and its other intellectual property robbery, as well as its Volt Typhoon efforts to implant malware into key U.S. computer systems. More, enough with the espionage. from the infamous Biden-era spy balloon to massive data theft from the federal government. Get your secret police off our soil. Xi doesn't want a world war any more than Trump does. He watches for weakness and moves swiftly, but subtly, to exploit it. And presidents who rush to compromise, or worse, seek to manage America's decline, have shown weakness. Trump's been strengthening our country's position all across the board. He shouldn't give Xi a thing. Your thoughts on that? All right, we got to take a short break. We're covering a lot this morning, a lot of international. We're running just a little bit late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Get ready for Glass Fest, May 22nd through 24th. Brought to you by Chemung Canal Trust. Experience the magic of live glass blowing. From hands-on fun to incredible sights, there's something for everyone. Explore creations from local artisans. 3 days, one incredible celebration. Brought to you by Corning's Gaffer District. On Friday night, it's Drake White with John King opening. On Saturday, Tracy's A Taylor Experience. Join us for Glass Fest, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
Video is the fastest growing form of advertising today. And with hyper-targeting, your marketing dollars can be more efficient than ever. Join WYDC and New Logic Marketing for a digital video strategy seminar, May 19th and 20th, with sessions from 8 to 9 a.m. and 12 to 1 p.m. at the Radisson in Corning. You'll learn what drives results and how to make video a powerful part of your overall marketing strategy. Join us May 19th for an expert look at digital video and learn what works from experts who understand why.
Can you help me?
Mom, Dad, we're going out.
Thank you.
Oh, look, they're playing chess.
What you got there?
Will you help my mom?
She's real sick, huh? Hey, crew, I'll give the first move to anyone who signs up to be an organ donor. How do you do it?
Easy. Just go to organdonor.gov.
You heard him, organdonor.gov.
More donors means more hope. Sign up at Organ Donor.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. People should remember that everything the Marxist imposter Barack Hussein Obama gave to Iran was stolen from the American taxpayers. Thank you very much. Now, Pete Hegseth says that the Pentagon will review Mark Kelly's public statements about classified briefings amid this ongoing feud. We know there has been a feud between Pete Hegseth, Mark Kelly. Mark Kelly really seeing this as an opportunity. And remember, Barack Obama had said, it was said that Barack, it was all anonymous sources, that that's who he wanted to run, not Kamala Harris, that it was Mark Kelly. So Mark Kelly may be seeing a future at the White House. Well, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said yesterday, or suggested, that Senator Mark Kelly may have violated his oath with comments he made to news outlets following a classified briefing. Kelly told Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation that it is shocking how deep we have gone into these magazines. When asked if the Pentagon has updated lawmakers on the Iran war's impact on U.S. weapons supplies. The senator told Brennan that Tomahawks, Army Tactical Missile Systems, RIM-161 Standard Missiles 3, and Terminal High Altitude Area Defense rounds and Patriot rounds used to defend the U.S. have been hit hard, adding that it will take years to replenish those stockpiles, which could affect a hypothetical U.S. conflict with China. In response, Hegseth questioned whether Kelly, a former Navy pilot, may have violated his oath and said that the Pentagon's legal counsel will review his comments, saying, quote, Captain Mark Kelly strikes again. Now he's blabbing on TV falsely and dumbly about a classified Pentagon briefing he received. Did he violate his oath again? Department of War legal counsel will review. Well, the senator responded saying, we had this conversation in a public hearing a week ago, and you said it would take years to replenish some of these stockpiles. That's not classified. It's a quote from you. This war is coming at a serious cost, and you and the president still haven't explained to the American people what the goal is. This comes amid a months-long dispute between Hegseth and Kelly over the senator's participation in a video with some of his Democrat colleagues in Congress urging U.S. military members to ignore illegal orders. You remember that. Grand jurors declined to sign off on charges against a lawmaker back in February. In November, the Pentagon launched an investigation into Kelly, pointing to a federal law that allows retired service members to be recalled to active duty on orders of the secretary for possible court-martial or other punishments. Hegseth has censored Kelly and has attempted to retroactively demote him from his retired rank of captain over his participation in the video, which affirms that refusing unlawful orders is a standard part of military protocol. But a federal court ruling blocked the Pentagon from demoting the lawmaker over the video. The court also found the Pentagon likely violated Kelly's First Amendment rights and those of millions of military retirees when it formally censored him on January the 5th. Hegseth subsequently appealed that ruling. Last week, a three-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit heard oral arguments and appeared largely skeptical of Pete Hegseth's attempt to punish Kelly for the video, Kelly saying, "I will not back down from this fight." So there you go. The Pentagon will review Mark Kelly's public statements about a classified briefing, continuing kind of that war between Hegseth and Mark Kelly. Also at the White House, and this is troubling. This was very, it happened on a regular basis, very prominent during Trump's first term. Well, emails from Susie Wiles warning White House staff about leaks was leaked. Troubling. In March, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles sent an email to Trump staff instructing them in no uncertain terms to stop leaking to the press. That memo didn't stay private for long. The email, obtained by Politico, stated that no staff member within the executive office of the president is permitted to speak with members of the news media without the explicit approval of the White House communications team. It also warned that unauthorized leaks will not be tolerated and are subject to sanction up to and including termination. Wiles, who the president has described as an ice maiden, added violation of this policy can result in significant disruption to ongoing operations and can potentially endanger missions and activities of national significance. So again, we're starting to see what we saw in Trump's first term, these constant leaks. This is troubling that an email about leaks was actually leaked. The email followed mounting exasperation inside the West Wing, over staffers sidestepping official channels and sharing unauthorized details of internal tensions with the press. In April, for instance, the White House griped about how details related to a downed U.S. military aircraft in Iran were leaked to the press. She was generally very frustrated with leaks, a source told Politico. Wiles has also pushed for tighter discipline within the executive branch, advising cabinet officials last month to avoid non-essential international trips in the lead up to the midterm elections. Quote, "There are hundreds of White House staffers faithfully serving the American people, all of whom are held to strict policies, including a zero-tolerance policy against speaking to the media without explicit authorization from the communications office, to ensure the president's message is communicated clearly, accurately, and directly to the American people." Wiles herself raised eyebrows in December for remarks she made to Vanity Fair about Trump and other cabinet officials. Yes, that was a weird one. She went to Vanity Fair. That was weird. On Thursday, while speaking at the Independent Women's 19th Awards Gala, the White House Chief of Staff appeared to allude to her bombshell interviews, which she accused Vanity Fair of framing as a hit piece. When asked about her communications with the press, Wiles said she exercises a great deal of caution. Quote, "I have a couple of friends in the reporter ranks, but we keep it to friendship," end quote. So email from Susie Wiles warning the White House staff not to leak was leaked. So we're seeing a little bit, that's troubling. Now we had a viewer mention about, I guess you could say, global warming. I've got kind of an interesting update on that. A couple things more about Trump. We're going to talk about gerrymandering, which if you missed Friday's show, we had a great show on Friday. If you missed it, you missed a lot. We had Joseph Hernandez, who is running for state comptroller, and which we also have an update on DiNapoli on that But he joined us on Friday, as well as former Congressman and current Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. If you missed those interviews, they are up on our YouTube page, so you can make sure to check that out. Again, I think Joseph Hernandez, I think that was a really interesting interview, kind of relaying what the job of comptroller entails. So if you missed it, again, go to our YouTube page. Also, we've got a couple of New York updates, but we are running just a tad bit late. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Accidents happen. If you're looking for an honest, dependable, trustworthy auto repair shop, bring it to Nappy's. Or if it's undrivable, have it towed right to us. It's your choice where to take your vehicle. Nappy's works with all insurance companies and will manage all vehicle calibrations. Nappy's has a state-of-the-art paint booth and a new and improved repair shop. Let our friendly staff of specialists help you through the process and get it done right the first time. Commit to Nappy's, family-owned for 3 generations.
Thank you for your business.
Big Fox News on YouTube.
Kids time. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Glass Back the Park, presented by Simmons Rockwell. Saturday, May 23rd is Tracy's A Taylor Experience.
Welcome to our tribute to the Eras Tour.
Free and open to the public. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
Down and play, I'll write your name.
Temperatures in Elmira will warm up into the 50s with showers expected here across the area for our Monday. Not too bad, just shy of 60 further off to the south here for our day. Our average high is 70, so we are definitely cooler than average. We'll get gusty here as we go towards Wednesday, but it's not going to be too bad here initially. We do have that chance for the morning frost. We will start a little bit on the cool side even into Tuesday. Thunderstorms are possible Wednesday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. David Marcus writes, and we had someone talking about global warming early on in this broadcast. For almost the entirety of the half century I have lived on Earth, says David Marcus, I have had experts, teachers, politicians, and activists hectoring me about how climate change is going to destroy the planet. But this week in the New York Times, of all places, is evidence that climate alarmism is finally cooling down. And we've had recently Bill Gates stepping away from this kind of narrative. The headline reads, Democrats do not have to campaign on climate change anymore. They argue that voters, this is with the New York Times, are rather turned off by the subject. I would like to suggest this is because it is the single most expensive lie in human history. In elementary school, I endured warnings of a coming ice age. Then by high school, it was global warming that was minutes away from ending humanity. By the time I was an adult, the warming having failed, surprisingly, to occur, we settled on climate change as the vague name for the inevitable apocalypse. In 2018, as Representative AOC was coming into prominence, she told us that we had a mere 12 years to fix the climate problem or we would all die. In that time, untold trillions of dollars have been spent by the government, along with basically every business in the country, to hold the weather at bay, even though every prediction the alarmists have made has fallen flat. Miami is not underwater. It's just the expense of climate alarmism. It's what it was kept us from doing as well. How much would a gallon of gas cost today had we been drilling for oil instead of pretending the emergency meant we had to switch to electric cars by next Tuesday? With precious few exemptions, every single thing in our lives has been made much more expensive by the cult of climate and its constant talks about the end of days. Entire generations of our youth have been terrorized, just as their parents were, by nuclear bomb drills, into thinking they may be the last human beings ever to live. We have all seen the reports of young adults who say they don't want to have kids because they expect the world to end. It's ridiculous. Travel sports might be a plausible reason to avoid having children, not climate change. Now, finally, after 50 years of hysteria, the New York Times, the very gray lady with her hair on fire over climate change this whole time, tells us it's not such a big deal after all. Even Greta Thunberg, whose entire existence, it seemed, was predicated upon berating us for destroying the planet, has moved on to now radical Islam. Say what you will, but an apocalyptic hoax, climate alarmism has had an absolutely historic run. Overpopulation nonsense had a few years in the 60s, but nothing compared to the decades of pure insanity that we have lived through thanks to Al Gore's unhinged predictions. Everyone wants to be a good steward of Mother Nature. Littering is bad and all that, but performative nonsense like paper straws that melt in your cocktail or cars that shut themselves off every 10 seconds are meaningless gestures. And you know my thoughts on that. I hate the auto start and stop on the cars. But the battle became religious for the secular left, with taxes instead of tithing and environmentalist slogans instead of prayers. It wasn't just a scientific issue, but a moral one. If you failed to join in the hysteria, then you were a bad person. Nothing about American climate policy or attitudes towards it have ever made any sense. We tighten our belts and pay through the nose to keep our emissions low, while the rest of the world basically fires huge carbon dioxide cannons up into the sky. For once, I agree with the New York Times. It is time for this madness to end. We do not need to saddle our children with the emotional and economic damage of make-believe climate disasters. Americans are smart enough to know that, whatever the loony left might tell them, the end is not nigh. I thought that was a really good piece, and it kind of tied in with what we were talking about in global warming. And of course, we have Climate Fact Friday Bob sending us in comments on Friday. What did you think about Trump going after the NFL? We're going to talk a little bit about that. We've got a few things here about New York State. Bruce Blakeman releasing a couple statements over the weekend. Bruce Blakeman, of course, running for governor against Kathy Hochul. And we, as I mentioned, we had the state comptroller candidate on the Republican ticket, Joseph Hernandez, on the program on Friday. Again, if you missed it, you can find that on our YouTube page. So we're going to talk a little bit about football, a little bit about gerrymandering. What else we got? I do want to remind you a couple of quick announcements. Grab your calendar because there's a lot of events coming up that you do not want to miss. One being the memorial of, let me find the exact, I don't have it printed, darn it. Did I not print it? Oh, darn it. I will find that for you, but the sheriff's office, there it is. The 11th annual Law Enforcement Memorial Service will be held this Friday at 6 p.m. at the Steuben County Sheriff's Office at 7007 Rumsey Street Extension. The memorial service honors fallen law enforcement members from Steuben County, Allegheny County, Chemung County, Livingston County, Ontario County, Schuyler County, and Yates County, and their families. The service includes remarks from regional representatives, taps, and a 21-gun salute by the Corning American Legion ritual team, Amazing Grace by the Crystal City Pipes and Drums, and the presentation of the colors by the Steuben County Sheriff's Honor Guard. The public is invited to attend and join in remembering and honor those who, in keeping our community safe, made the ultimate sacrifice. So again, that's this Friday, the 11th Annual Law Enforcement Memorial at the Steuben County Sheriff's Office, this Friday at 6 p.m. I also wanted to remind you, and we'll find out a little bit more about this next week, but Miss Colonial Days, let me see if I have it here. There it is. Miss Colonial Days pageant to join is open now. The pageant itself is June 11th at 6 p.m., but contestants residing in the Corning Painted Post area must be female between the ages of 4 and 18 as of June 1st, 2026. There's a $35 entry fee for all contestants. Deadline for entry is June the 5th. So you see it right there, the Facebook information. You can call Lisa. We're going to hear about that coming up, I want to say early next week. So make sure you sign up, your kid, your grandkid, for Miss Colonial Days pageant, coming up on the 11th of June at 6 p.m. All right, there we go. There's some housekeeping. We do have a lot of events coming up that we'll be telling you more about. On Wednesday's program, we'll be talking with Zachary Pugh. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, P-U-G-H. He is running for Elmira Heights Board of Education. We'll be talking with him on Wednesday. Thursday, Taylor Melpis. We had his brother Chris on last week to tell us about the new gospel album they're releasing. And then on Friday, it is Fridays with Phil, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, who joined us virtually kind of over email on Friday's broadcast when he had a couple questions for Joe Sempolinski. So we had a little fun with that on Friday's show. All right, stay with us. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in, and we will be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
When it comes to home improvement, Horseheads Do-It Center has you covered. Family owned, locally trusted, and packed with everything you need for any project. From top quality tools to kitchen and bath essentials, we make it easy. Competitive prices, expert advice, friendly service. Visit us at 124 North Main Street or online at doitbest.com/horseheads today.
Every job demands control, no matter how rough the terrain. That's why Ferris features patented front and rear suspension, turning rough terrain into smooth motion. Less stress on your crew, less stress on your equipment, more lawns mowed. Feels like more money in your pocket. Feels like a Ferris.
Value days are here, and our prices are lower than ever. Stop by your neighborhood value home centers and spring into savings. Thompson's transparent waterproofing stain is now only $24.97. Save $7. Save 50% on the Panacea 84-inch Shepherd's Hook and save 40% on the 48-inch plant support, just $9.97 each. Spring savings are waiting at Value.
Value for the do-it-yourselfer. Do-it-yourselfer.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Ken writes in, I see that in response to the Virginia Supreme Court stopping the Democrats' racial gerrymandering of the state's electoral districts, Dems are planning on outdoing their insane, divisive tactics. They want to lower the mandatory retirement age for Virginia's Supreme Court justices to 54 years old, because that is the age of the youngest judge currently serving in the court. Then they can pack the court with loyal liberal Dem justices so they can always get their way. Yeah, Ken, we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. Can you imagine 54? Yeah, we got a couple things on that, but I wanted to mention this first just to get your opinion. President Trump ripped the NFL yesterday, accusing the league of price gouging longtime fans with its new push to move games to streaming platforms. Trump said football bigs are making it harder and more expensive for fans to enjoy watching their favorite teams play as the franchise makes exclusive deals with Netflix and Amazon. Trump was on Full Measure with Cheryl Atkinson. I interviewed her back in the day. Very interesting lady. If you've never read her book, I highly recommend it. But Trump told her there's something very sad when they take football away from many, many people. He continued, hold on, my page is getting stuck here. It's tough. It's a tough one. You've got people that love football. They're great people. They don't make enough money to go and pay this. It's tough, and they could be killing the golden goose. At the heart of the problem is the NFL's decision to move certain games to Netflix, Amazon, YouTube, and Peacock, setting the average fan scrambling to sign up for each service. Thursday Night Football, for instance, streams exclusively on Amazon Prime, which starts at $14.99 a month. Trump seemed to support critics' assertion that the NFL's shift could also be a violation of the Sports Broadcasting Act and the antitrust exemption it grants on the league. With the Department of Justice opening an antitrust investigation against the NFL last month, Trump weighed in and stated flatly that he wasn't a fan of the new business model, saying, quote, I don't like it. They're making a lot of money. They could make a little bit less. They could let the people see you have people that live for Sunday. They can't think about anything else, and then all of a sudden they're going to have to pay $1,000 a game. It's crazy. I'm not happy about it. The NFL had previously argued that viewers have already abandoned traditional broadcasters and have made streaming their go-to way to watch the games. The league also maintains that the vast majority of its games are free on broadcast television, including all the games in the markets of the competing teams. The NFL's media distribution model is the most fan and broadcaster friendly in the entire sports and entertainment industry, the NFL said. Also speaking of the NFL, Bad Bunny, remember him? The controversial Super Bowl halftime act has triggered a wave of Federal Communications Commission's, FCC, complaints from outraged viewers who blasted his performance as vulgar and inappropriate for children. More than 2,000 complaints were sent to the FCC after the game on February 11th, including more than 100 messages describing the Puerto Rican pop star's performance as raunchy and filled with dirty talk, according to TMZ. Quote, the Super Bowl halftime show was disgusting. Pornographic gestures and language. This shouldn't be allowed on public television. There were children watching, one viewer said. Continuing here. This was the most disgusting, vulgar, and repulsive thing I've ever seen on public TV, read a complaint from Missouri. I was raised with God and religion. I had to go to counseling and therapy after the Super Bowl. I can't get the lyrics out of my head. I have PTSD from the Super Bowl, one person wildly claimed. Very vulgar for a family gathering in which we should have been warned beforehand. Also, the actions of the dancers on screen were inappropriate as well. Others said that they were upset that they could not understand the Spanish lyrics, while some bilingual viewers argued that translated content was inappropriate for broadcast television. Multiple complaints claim that there would have been even more of an uproar if the lyrics had been performed in English. Some viewers also described the performance as anti-American and accused Bad Bunny of speaking in a demonic tongue. The Post exclusively reported in February that the halftime show had already come under scrutiny from the FCC over possible violations of rules prohibiting indecent material and offensive language on public airwaves. I'm not going to read each of the songs or why they could be deemed inappropriate. If they had aired uncensored, the lyrics would have run afoul of FCC rules banning profanity and obscenity during primetime hours, according to a source familiar with the matter. Ahead of the game, Bad Bunny's selection as halftime performer had already sparked criticism from conservative commentators and online critics. Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA, produced an alternative all-American halftime show featuring Kid Rock, Brantley Gilbert, Lee Brice, and Gabby Barrett. Despite the backlash, Bad Bunny's performance still drew 128.2 million viewers, making one of the most watched halftime shows in Super Bowl history. Past halftime performers, including Kendrick Lamar and Rihanna, have also drawn FCC complaints over their performances. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about those maps that Ken was mentioning. We got a few things on that, a few things here about AOC for some reason, a lot about New York State issues. This is our last break of hour number 1, so get your comments in, and we'll be right back after this.
Every job has a moment where it could slow down, or it could keep moving. At D&L Supply and Rental, we focus on what actually matters, keeping your momentum. From emergency rentals to weekend projects, we make it easy, we make it fast, we make it right. Less downtime, because our team knows the job, has what you need, and gets it to you even on Saturdays. D&L, built for momentum.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Temperatures in Elmira will warm up into the 50s with showers expected here across the area for our Monday. Not too bad, just shy of 60 further off to the south here for our day. Our average high is 70, so we are definitely cooler than average. We'll get gusty here as we go towards Wednesday, but it's not going to be too bad here initially. We do have that chance for the morning frost. We will start a little bit on the cool side even into Tuesday. Thunderstorms are possible Wednesday and Thursday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. We're going to be talking about gerrymandering As Ken had mentioned earlier on, we've got a couple things on that in the next hour. We also have, we actually have a lot on that. There's also a few things here about the Democrat Party in general. The Kamala Harris's and the Cory Bookers of the world are asking that the autopsy from November's election, from the presidential election, I should say, 2 years ago, that should be released. The DNC chair has refused to do so, thinking it would take attention away from what they see as almost a lock, a guarantee at the midterm. They've been pushing it since Trump got sworn in. But we're going to talk a little bit about that. As I said, AOC is just making the rounds. I'm not sure why. We also have some local issues, some statewide issues, and a couple things. Oh, here's a question I'll ask you. Is Usha Vance the mastermind behind J.D. Vance, saying that maybe she has an outsized role in controlling J.D. Vance? The narrative around J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio have been just so interesting because, of course, Marco Rubio is being portrayed as the next president, where J.D. Vance, they have been pretty hypercritical of him, so creating that chaos that we've talked so often about here on the program, just something to keep in mind. Now, when we return, hard to believe hour number 1 is in the book. As I said, we have a couple things about the redistricting. Representative James Clyburn was on State of the Union on Sunday and said Republican redistricting could cause his state to go from 1 Democrat congressman to 3. Well, they might not, because I do believe that the voters in this country are watching very closely and they are feeling emotionally what the threat is to our future. I do not believe that the majority of the voters in this country condone and will agree with what President Trump is doing. The South Carolina House delegation, our House, talked with him, the Senate, I guess on a day before yesterday. But the Supreme Court 2 years ago spoke to this district and said it's not unconstitutional. But the president says he wants them to redraw the lines. Anyway, all I'm going to say is that to be very careful what you pray for, because what I do believe is that when they finish with the redistricting, there will be the possibility of at least 3 Democrats getting elected here in South Carolina to the United States Congress. We're going to talk about that here in the next hour. What else do we got? A couple things about Blakeman, a couple things about New York in general. As I said, we've got a lot of guests on the program this week, but today it is just you and I. So catch up. I know we've been a little quiet this morning. I understand it's a Monday morning. But your thoughts from over the weekend, your thoughts on Iran, your thoughts on all the topics we've discussed this morning, I would love to hear from you. But we get ready to wrap up hour number 1. Hard to believe when we return. 10 days that shook the House map and shook Democratic confidence, according to the New York Times. We got a couple things from the New York Times that are not overly positive, surprisingly, to Democrats. We're going to talk about that as well. But we're out of time for hour number 1. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here at WYDC TV Big Fox. We will be right back with hour number 2 after this.
Don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Watch news from the Twin Tiers and catch local events on Facebook.com/Big Fox News. Give kids time.
Insurance companies don't make money by paying claims. They make money by denying them. They hire doctors to say you're not that hurt. They bring in lawyers to chip away at your case. They stall, they argue, they cut corners, because every dollar they save is another dollar of profit. At WDC Injury Law, we know their tactics, and we fight back with facts and evidence. If you've been injured in New York or Pennsylvania, call 607-500-HURT. Don't let the insurance companies control your story.
Glass Fest the Park, presented by Simmons Rockwell. Friday, May 22nd, it's award-winning country music powerhouse Drake White with soulful country entertainer John King opening. Friday, May 22nd in Riverfront Centennial Park in Corning. Free and open to the public. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
Mess is so uplifting. You see how the community rallies around us, saying we're going to fight this thing with you, no matter how long it takes or what it takes.
I love the energy at Walk MS. It is community, it is family. I can ride that high for the rest of the year.
A cure is on the line for me.
A cure is on the line for all of us.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So glad that you joined us this morning. Okay, so the New York Times writes just 2 weeks ago, Democrats felt increasingly emboldened about taking control of the House in November after seeming to fight the redistricting wars to a draw. And if you recall, they were saying it was the first big win for Hakeem Jeffries. We're going to talk about him in just a moment. But 2 court rulings, one by the Supreme Court and another by Virginia's top court, and an aggressive new push by red states to carve up congressional maps, have delivered the Republican Party its biggest burst of momentum in many months. Now, they said it was just a couple weeks ago, but really, Democrats have been pushing that they're going to win in the midterm since really Trump got sworn in. Put bluntly, Republicans have roughly 10 more House seats that favor them than they did just 10 days ago, and Democrats are suddenly grappling with a new landscape. Quote, "This is now clearly closer than it would have been just a week and a half ago," said Representative Brendan Boyle, a Pennsylvania Democrat. Democrats are still widely seen as favored to win the House this fall. Republicans face a daunting political climate saddled with President Trump's sagging approval ratings, high gas prices, and an unpopular war in Iran. Remember, this is New York Times, so bear with me. In special elections and last year's races for governor, Democratic enthusiasm has swamped Republican turnout. Mr. Boyle said, "I was anticipating about a 15 to 20 seat pickup before the last week and a half. Now I would be anticipating a 10 to 15 seat pickup. That would be more than enough to wrest the majority from Republicans who are clinging to a current edge of 217 to 212, and history is not on Republicans' side. The party in power almost always loses seats in midterm elections. But after the latest map changes, winning the House majority will require Democrats to flip more seats and less hospitable territory. Bullish Republicans feel that they are back in the game. Lord, grant me humility," said James Blair, the Republican strategist who was overseeing Mr. Trump's political operation in the midterms. One of Speaker Mike Johnson's senior political aides interrupted the middle of a meeting in Texas where the Republican leader was on a fundraising swing to break the news, according to 2 people with knowledge of the conversation. Mr. Johnson later celebrated on the phone with Glenn Youngkin, the former Republican governor of Virginia, who had opposed the Democratic effort to redraw the state's lines. The last 10 days demonstrated the power and speed of the courts to shape the midterms and the role of judges in the next phase of the redistricting battle. Recent legal actions are underway in Virginia, Tennessee, Florida, Louisiana, and Alabama that could still undo or block some of the potential Republican gains before the fall. The outcome of the legislative and legal fight, which has unfolded largely beyond the control of American voters, could be highly consequential. No party has made a net gain of more than a dozen House seats in a national election since the wave of 2018. Representative Yvette Clarke of New York, the chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus, said in an interview that Democrats were engaged in meetings on meetings on meetings to figure out how to respond in Democrat-controlled states, but the party's next steps were unclear. She said, noting that some potential paths seem to be closed because of the election calendar. "It's not," Ms. Clarke said, "a good feeling." The last few weeks stand as a remarkably important period in the battle of Congress this fall. And it goes through the history here. But a flood of good news for Republicans, says the New York Times. I don't want to go through the whole history here. Both parties are now bracing for a district-by-district fight this fall. Liz Smith, a Democrat political strategist who has worked with some of the party's House candidates this year through a group called The Bench, said the latest changes to congressional maps only emphasized how hard-fought the election would be. Rather than navel-gazing and hand-wringing, we just need to focus on what will put us over the top, which is educating voters not just about Trump, but what his enablers in Congress have done. Chris Winkleman, the president of the leading House Republican super PAC, called the Congressional Leadership Fund, derided the Democrat Party to a majority as an expensive house of cards. As they wake up and realize they are overextended, they will find us well-resourced and locked into the core of the battleground. At the end of April, the Cook Political Report, which handicaps political races, listed 217 House seats as at least leaning Democrat, meaning the party would have needed to win just a single toss-up race to seize the majority. As of Friday, Cook rated 208 seats up as leaning Democrats, meaning the party would need to win 10 of the 18 toss-up races. Now, a private call revealed the Democrats' desperation over the tossing of the map in Virginia. Democrats are struggling to respond, this again from the New York Times, to respond to a major redistricting setback in Virginia, with some party leaders discussing an audacious and possibly far-fetched idea for trying to restore a congressional map voided by the court, but showing little indication they have a clear path. During a private discussion on Saturday that included Democrat House members from Virginia and Representative Hakeem Jeffries of New York, the minority leader, the lawmakers vented anger at their defeat at the Virginia Supreme Court, spoke about a collective determination to flip 2 or 3 Republican-held seats under the existing map, and discussed a bank shot proposal to redraw the congressional lines anyway, according to 3 people who participated in the call. They did not land on a specific course forward, and Mr. Jeffries and the other members of Congress agreed to consult with their lawyers about the most prudent way to proceed. The conversation reflected the desperation and fury that have gripped the party after the state Supreme Court struck down a favorable map that had been ratified by voters. The most dramatic idea they discussed, which would involve an unusual gambit to replace the entire state Supreme Court with a goal of reinstating their gerrymandered map. It drew mixed reactions on the call, and it was not clear that it would even be viable or palatable to Governor Abigail Spanberger and Democrats in the Virginia General Assembly. After Democrats had fought Republicans to a rough draw last month in a nationwide gerrymandering war, a pair of recent court rulings quickly gave the GOP the clear upper hand in the race to redraw maps ahead of the midterm elections. Facing stiff headwinds, including President Trump's low approval ratings and high gas prices, Republicans are looking for every advantage they can find to defy the odds and hold on to their narrow majority. Any plans to enact a new congressional map for this year's midterm election would require actions in the next few days. In a court filing last month, Steve Koski, the commissioner of the Virginia Department of Elections, said any changes to the maps after Tuesday, May 12th, will significantly increase the risk of his agency being unable to properly prepare for the state's scheduled August 4th primary election. Now, the New York Post editorial board says as night follows day, progressives' response to the Virginia Supreme Court's tossing of Governor Abigail Spanberger's outrageous gerrymandering is to demand an instant court-packing move to undo it. And this is in reference to what Ken was saying. To lefties driving today's Democrat Party, it's not democracy unless it's hardwired to let them run roughshod. And when their power grab schemes run afoul of the rule of law, their only answer is a fresh scheme. Specifically, progressives want to ram through a law instantly dropping the retirement age for the Virginia court to 54, which would allow the legislature to replace enough justices to restore the gerrymander. Spanberger's already caved to the left and pushing an outrage she'd promised to oppose. Will she find the spine to say no now? Wiser minds would call off this madness, but then again, wiser minds would have avoided this mess in the first place. As the California Post has noted, Democrats could have abandoned the redistricting war after Governor Newsom's Golden State gerrymander, even the tab for the Texas one. But instead, with Newsom leading the charge, they demanded Virginia Democrats go big. Spanberger, who'd campaigned against a post-victory gerrymandering, complied, and other Republican states responded in kind, with Florida alone likely making up for what Democrats stood to gain in Virginia. With the Virginia map tossed, Republicans could wind up netting 14 House seats from the redistricting war. Mind you, that may not save the GOP majority. The old map still gives Democrats an excellent chance to pick up 2 or 3 seats in Virginia. And even the Texas gerrymandering that started the whole thing could blow up in Republicans' face if Hispanics in the Lone Star State revert to their pre-2024 voting pattern. On the other hand, the outrageous attempt to steal seats may well drive Virginia moderates into Republican hands come November. Democrats burned $62 million to barely pass the referendum that allowed the gerrymandering. That's cash they can't spend on winnable races across the country. But rather than learn their lesson, progressives only want to further stomp on the rule of law by packing the Virginia court. Nationwide, even moderate Democrats are now talking about seizing their next available chance to pack the U.S. Supreme Court, grant statehood to D.C. and Puerto Rico, simply to gain them 4 safe Senate seats and abolish the Senate filibuster, and so lock in progressive power forever. Anyone paying attention should realize these lunatics need to be kept out of power until the party comes to its senses. Yeah, there's a lot there. Packing the Supreme Court, looking at making Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico states so that they can have those guaranteed Senate seats. Jonathan Turley, I like Jonathan Turley. He said after the Virginia Supreme Court rejected the results of the recent Democrat efforts to effectively wipe out Republican representative in the state, Democrat pundits and activists have latched onto a proposal by Michigan State law professor Quinn Yergin to gut the court by forcing the retirement of the current justices, appointing liberal activists, and then reversing the opinion. It is extremely telling that some are pushing the raw muscle play to retake power in Washington, particularly in light of the calls to pack the U.S. Supreme Court once their party is back in control. And, Trump said it as well. They're going to get rid of the filibuster. Why don't Republicans get rid of the filibuster? It's only a matter of time before Democrats do, but I'll continue. Professor Yergin declared on Substack that there is a simple and lawful solution. Send the entire court into early retirement. Under the plan, Virginia Democrats would adopt an absurdly low age for retirement in a gut and pack scheme. Yergin suggested that they could set the mandatory retirement of justices after they reach a prescribed age, beyond which they shall not serve, regardless of the term to which elected or appointed. The current retirement age, 73. Yergin dismisses that number as arbitrary and says that Democrats need only to make it 54 for Supreme Court justices, the age of the youngest justice, Stephen McCall, who joined the majority opinion, and make it take effect immediately. The fact that such an abuse plan is described as simple captured the logic of an age of rage. Jonathan Turley recently wrote a column in which he warned that the reversal of fortunes for the party could lead to an even more dangerous agenda, with Democrats pushing for packing the Supreme Court. In the unlikely chance that they could pass the General Assembly, it would be difficult to engineer before the midterm election, given the likely challenges. However, it is the inclination of some to try such measures that is chilling. It's noted that Virginia showed how an independent court can unravel the best laid plans. Various politicians and professors have advocated radical change to the political system to ensure the party retains power indefinitely. They acknowledged, however, that the court could likely declare these moves as unconstitutional unless they first take control through a packing scheme. The new proposal for the gut and pack scheme is even more cynical and brutal. Ironically, the Virginia Supreme Court declared the redistricting efforts by the Democrats as not only unconstitutional, but wholly unprecedented in Virginia's history. It characterized the state's position as a story of the tail wagging the dog that has no tail. The response of Yergin and Democrat activists is now to suggest just shooting the dog and adopting a type of politically modified puppy breed to serve. Such radical proposals are being rationalized with open disinformation. Pundits regularly fail to mention that the Democrats previously gerrymandered states such as Illinois, Massachusetts, and New York while claiming the right to win by any means necessary. Others just deny reality. Senator Tim Kaine lashed out at the Virginia Supreme Court and demanded to know why they waited so long to rule on whether there was fundamental flaws in the Democrats' plan. Kaine either never read the opinion or sought to mislead voters. The opinion has an entire section on the timing, noting that it was the Democrats in the Commonwealth that demanded the courts wait to rule on the merits until after the election. After successfully seeking that delay, they're now accusing the court of something untoward in doing what they demanded. Notably, the gut and pack scheme sets aside any pretense of principle. The Democrats would simply adopt a ridiculously low retirement age, as I mentioned. These are the new Jacobins, discussed in the book Rage and the Republic, figures echoing the radical concepts or means used in France before they became known as the Terror. By any means has become a rallying cry on the left. Law professor Ryan Dorfler of Harvard and Samuel Moyn of Yale have called for the nation to reclaim America from constitutionalism. Last December, they published a column titled, "It's Time to Accept that the U.S. Supreme Court is illegitimate and must be replaced." Democrat strategists know that the public will not approve of such measures. Democrat strategist James Carville stated matter-of-factly, they're going to recommend that the number of Supreme Court justices go from 9 to 13. That's going to happen, people. Don't run on it. Don't talk about it. Just do it. What is striking about the Virginia proposal is that it's being pushed so openly and unapologetically. Democrats realize that they have alienated half of Virginia already. Republicans and independents are not likely to forget that every major Democrat in their state, including Governor Abigail Spanberger, sought to erase their very political existence. It is not partisan, it's personal. In destroying bridges to cross over voters in the purple state, what is left is political brutality, raw political brutality. You must dump and pump on seeking radical measures to grab power. In the process, no court or institution is sacred in the cause of social and political change. It's all part of the Nike School of Constitutional Law. Just do it. I thought that was a good piece from Jonathan Turley. Now, the networks were furious that the courts ended racial gerrymandering. Oh, I'm running late. Stay with us. We'll be right back, frankly speaking, here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Glass Back the Park, presented by Simmons Rockwell. Saturday, May 23rd is Tracy's A Taylor Experience.
Welcome to our tribute to the Eras Tour.
Free and open to the public. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
Down and play, I'll write your name.
Digital is the fastest growing form of advertising today. And with hyper-targeting, your marketing dollars can be more efficient than ever. Join WYDC and New Logic Marketing for a digital video strategy seminar May 19th and 20th with sessions from 8 to 9 a.m. and 12 to 1 p.m. at the Radisson in Corning. You'll learn what drives results and how to make video a powerful part of your overall marketing strategy. Join us May 19th for an expert look at digital video and learn what works from experts who understand why.
How we start a conversation matters. Text CONVO to 51550 for weekly conversation starters and connect more with parenting.org from Boys Town.
Temperatures in Elmira will warm up into the 50s with showers expected here across the area for our Monday. Not too bad, just shy of 60 further off to the south here for our day. Our average high is 70. So we are definitely cooler than average. We'll get gusty here as we go towards Wednesday, but it's not going to be too bad here initially. We do have that chance for the morning frost. We will start a little bit on the cool side even into Tuesday. Thunderstorms are possible Wednesday and Thursday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Ken writes in, so either on purpose or inadvertently, AOC has become a friend of the Republicans. She told her base that billionaires didn't earn their fortunes legally. This should be played over and over again for her base, to ruin Pritzker's presidential aspirations and put a light on Soros's ill-gotten gains. She may think knocking Pritzker out of the presidential race helps her chances, but fortunately, her chances of winning the presidency are slim and none. Thank you, Ken. Comment from a different viewer. Since so many illegals have left the country, has there been any indication how much it would affect elections? No, I've not seen anything on that, but that's an interesting point that you raise. Now, the Supreme Court's decision to reject racial gerrymandering brought the worst excesses on the broadcast networks. An ABC reporter stood in front of the White House on April the 29th and claimed the decision was in line with President Trump's eager efforts to put additional restrictions on voting writ large and taking steps to really undermine confidence in the voting system ahead of the midterms. These networks have a disturbing tendency to equate democracy and civil rights with whatever helps Democrats. Both parties this year have been aggressively pushing redistricting, but the media hasn't displayed a nonpartisan reformist approach, urging a less political redistricting approach. Instead, they clothe all the Democrats' arguments in favorable terms. Red states in the South moving to change district lines before the midterms is certainly a disadvantage to Democrats, which is countered by the media advantage and how it pretends, or is how it's presented. PBS NewsHour anchor Amna Nawaz summarized on Tuesday, quote, the Supreme Court ruling against drawing congressional maps to protect black or other minority voters has sparked a new wave in the ongoing redistricting war. Now, over the years, both parties have supported majority-minority districts to put Democrats together and ensure black Democrats can win perennially without any serious competition. PBS and others call that protecting black voters. They suggest blacks don't have voting rights unless they can elect black representative. So what happens when a majority black district elects a white guy like Tennessee Democrat Representative Steve Cohen, or an Indian American guy like Michigan Democrat Representative Shri Thandar? Every American citizen over 18 of age who isn't a felon has voting rights. That was true yesterday and today, but our media always slants every issue into the distorted Democrat version of reality. Consider the typical labeling bias. Conservative judges and politicians are opposed by civil rights activists, not leftists, civil rights activists. On CBS Morning on Thursday, reporter Ed O'Keefe suggested it was a Republican power grab to redistrict Montgomery, Alabama, the birthplace of the modern civil rights movement. Co-host Gail King said the breakfast table this way: last week's decision makes it much harder for states to create districts favoring minority candidates. What CBS should say is districts favoring minority Democrats. Another TV trick is that we call the covert liberal activist presented as an average Joe or Jane. According to CBS's Chiron in the O'Keefe story, Rachel Turner was simply an Alabama voter, and she was shown lamenting the Supreme Court, saying, quote, "I just felt like I have been hit by a ton of bricks. So many people gave their actual lives in order to exercise their fundamental right to vote." In real life, Turner is actually a member of the Alabama Resistors chapter of Indivisible. Kind of interesting. A progressive activist group that organizes the No Kings protest against Trump. She was featured under the title on a local CBS News report in January protesting ICE enforcement activities. Anyway, you get the idea. On that ridiculous hub of everyday misinformation they call The View, host Whoopi Goldberg claimed absolutely nothing has changed in the South over the last 60 years. Quote, "We put the Voting Rights Act together because that was an issue, because people keep voting, were keeping people from voting. They were literally shooting people. They were running them down with dogs to keep them from voting, okay? Let's start with that." So when they say the problem is gone, it's not gone because they're still doing it. You're still doing it. It's the stubborn resistance to facts that we are no longer in the era of rigid segregation and systemic racism, that there can never be a turning point on race. That undermines what's wrong with the news we get from the broadcast networks. And I mentioned, this is scary. So they're not saying this is a piece about how radicalized coverage has become, how much hate there is for President Trump. They're not saying someone should kill Trump, but they're coming very close. Peyton Van Ness was fuming about Donald Trump when he grabbed his phone and hit record. Somebody should, he declared, pausing for dramatic effect. Somebody should, if somebody knew what needed to be done, that person should probably just do it, the 27-year-old influencer continued, not defining what it is. He then uploaded the 62-second video to TikTok, where it accumulated more than 700,000 likes and 3.2 million views. His version on Instagram garnered another 1.4 million views. Crazy how we all know exactly what you're talking about, one of the commentators said. It is a part of a social media trend that has twisted the idea of a presidential assassination into a morbid joke. Once an unseemly feature of the web's fringe, deliberately ambiguous chatter about political violence has spread on mainstream platforms over the past year, most often in reference to Trump and Elon Musk, according to a new report from Know Your Meme, which tracks the rise of viral posts. Somebody should do it, and its online variance, the author writes, is wink nudge shorthand for suggesting that somebody kill a powerful person. And I don't want to go through all this because it's very troubling, but it's a new trend. Wow. Anyway. Now, Democrat Representative Ted Lieu, you're never going to guess it, he said that the Trump coalition has completely collapsed. I would disagree that Republicans may have a nice 9-seat advantage because that's based on data from last term. And the Trump coalition has completely collapsed because of skyrocketing gas prices, surging inflation. And if you look at the polling data and the results we've had in special elections this year, as well as last year, we think the Republicans may have an advantage of anywhere between 3 to 5 additional seats. That is not enough for them to stop a Democratic blue wave coming in November. And the best thing to do when a court does something outlandish, like the Virginia Supreme Court, is get back up and fight and make sure we win in the midterms. Margaret Brennan said, but with Virginia pushed by Democrats, you spent more than $60 million on that redistricting effort. Wouldn't those funds have been better spent on those frontline candidates and arguing on the issues? Lou said, so what the Virginia Supreme Court did was not only wrong, it was disgraceful. They basically said, hey, Virginia, spend all this taxpayer money holding an election, do all this stuff, and oh, by the way, just kidding, that election didn't count. The court could have stopped this by not having the election in the first place. They suckered the people of Virginia. It was completely disgraceful. Now, most of the money that Democrats spend in the race is called C4 money. So that's not direct hard money that we're going to need for races in the midterms, but it was taxpayer money that was wasted. Here's a couple things. I'm just running through a couple things to get your opinion on. Trump's pastor said that the president has a better understanding of the Bible than the Pope. Quote, it looks like President Trump has a better understanding of what the Bible teaches about the role of government than the Pope has, said Pastor Robert Jeffress on Fox News. Speaking on the topic of Secretary of State Marco Rubio's Thursday meeting with the Pope, Jeffries, the pastor of First Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas, has supported the president since 2016, serving on his Evangelical Advisory Board and even delivering a sermon to him on the morning of his inauguration during his first term. The admiration Jeffries has for Trump seems to go both ways, as the president has called this virulently anti-Catholic pastor, a wonderful man, and then promoted his great book, A Place Called Heaven. Anyway, enough on that. It's a Daily Caller, so anti-Catholic just because he said, the pastor said the president has a better understanding of the Bible than the Pope. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We're moving fast here. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in, and we'll be right back after this.
Your adventure starts with ServU Credit Union. Wherever you're headed, ServU Credit Union can help you get there with auto and camper loans with special rates. Kick your adventure off with a camper or RV rate of only 6.99% per 120 months. Or get a great deal on your next auto loan, 4.99% for up to 72 months. ServU Credit Union does not determine your loan rate by your credit score, so rest assured that you will receive our best rate. Get started at ServUCU.com today.
World Youth Clubs provides professional and technical assistance to all our affiliate clubs all around the world. We already have 44 countries that are behind us providing safe spaces for kids, but there are 160 other countries we'd like to reach out to. Yeah. Right, Rod? Exactly. We need you to help fund the World Youth Clubs and make their dream come true.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the Army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Our beautiful view of historic Market Street, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Some comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. For the record, AOC has not won me over. Okay, thank you for that. Also, a viewer writes in, and we talked about this on Friday's show, where Pramila Jayapal admitted to, was actually proud of the fact that she was trying to get oil to Cuba. So yes, thank you for bringing that to our attention, but we did talk about that last week. Comment from a different viewer. So the Corning Painted Post school budget vote is next Tuesday, the 19th. Does anybody want to wager on its passing? Of course, it would be a fool's bet since we know what the outcome will be, no doubt. I hope I'm wrong. Yeah, I mean, last year you had it fail the first time. I don't think we'll necessarily see that this time, but I could be wrong. Your thoughts on the school budget? Oh yeah, Mark Hamill, this viewer writes in, Star Wars created a tombstone showing President Trump laying in peace with a caption, I don't recall. This made me so angry that though I couldn't get his direct email, I did get its publisher. I wrote and said I couldn't wait to see Hamill's tombstone so I could spit on it. Yeah, he actually backtracked on it a little bit, but yeah, it was basically Trump lying in peace and saying, I'm paraphrasing, but something like wishful thinking or something like that. Comment from Mark. So why are we paying for Democratic redistricting? The government spends our money like it's their money. I believe they should change the law where if they want to campaign or redistrict, it should come out of their pocket. Good point, Mark. Thank you. I appreciate that. Keep those comments coming in. Now, to that viewer who said that AOC has not won them over, AOC claims American Revolution was a fight against billionaires. Squad member Representative Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez is under fire for radically rewriting history by claiming the American Revolution was all about fighting against billionaires, similar to the fight she and other fellow socialists are waging on capitalism. Quote, the American Revolution was against the billionaires of their time. We are declaring independence from such an extreme marriage of wealth and the state. Okay. Critics schooled the Boston University grad by noting that the American Revolution was a rebellion against the British government over unfair taxation without representation and monarchical control, not a fight over wealth. Others also know that George Washington and some other founding fathers were among the wealthiest in the colonies. In fact, Washington himself was worth the equivalent of nearly $600 million in today's money. No, AOC, the American Revolution was not against the billionaires of their time, said Senator Mike Lee. It was against a large, distant, overly intrusive government that recognized no limits over its own authority to tax, regulate, and eat all the substance of the citizens it claimed to serve. Marina Medvin, a lawyer and conservative political pundit, said AOC doesn't comprehend America's founding at all. She thinks raising taxes is consistent with the American Revolution. She also asked AI chatbot Grok to back her argument. In which grade do American schools teach the Boston Tea Party and the reason for the Revolutionary War? 4th or 5th grade is what they learned. Steve Gass, Republican political strategist, said AOC is rewriting American history to fit her communist agenda. Orwell would be proud. Senator Ted Cruz said if a 9th grader writes this on her history test, she gets an F. It was literally a revolution against oppressive government. The very thing AOC wants to inflict on all of us. And the revolution was financed by American free enterprise, the billionaires of that time. AOC continued to leave the door open to a 2028 presidential run during the softball interview with David Axelrod. My ambition is way bigger than that. My ambition is to change the country. So her ambition is bigger than the president of the United States. Presidents come and go. Senate, House seats, elected officials come and go. But single-payer health care is forever. A living wage is forever. Workers' rights are forever. Women's rights, all of that. So her ambitions, AOC says her ambition is bigger than running for president. You know, it's funny because in this op-ed that Jeff Bezos paid for in the Washington Post, there was a line you had mentioned earlier about, well, as a potential 2028 contender, X, Y, and Z. And in the context of that, it was very clear that was a veiled threat, right? It was the elite saying, if you want this job, you just step out of line, and we want you to know where the real power is. It's the modern-day barons who owns the Washington Post and own the algorithms. And we're gonna make an example out of you. That's funny about what is that they assume that my ambition is positional. They assume that my ambition is a title or a seat. And my ambition is way bigger than that. My ambition is to change the country. Presidents come and go, Senate, House seats, elected officials come and go, but single-payer health care is forever. A living wage is forever. Workers' rights are forever. Women's rights, all of that. The Democrat said she makes decisions by observing the conditions of this country and saying, what decision can I make today that is going to get us closer to that future, stronger, better, faster than yesterday? Now, there is a proxy war, I guess, between Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, and AOC. The May 19th primary is shaping up as an early test of strength for the two potential 2028 presidential campaign rivals. The contest is also a microcosm of the nationwide civil war between the Democrat Party's liberal and centrist wings. AOC has endorsed Chris Rabb, a progressive firebrand state lawmaker from Philadelphia, who's running for a U.S. House seat in a competitive three-way Democratic primary. AOC is rumored to be visiting Philadelphia this month to campaign for Rabb. She has also fundraised for Rabb and posted on social media in support of him. Shapiro has not been publicly active in the race, as AOC has, but Shapiro and his team have privately told allies that he disapproves of Rabb and has taken steps to block his path, according to 3 people familiar with the discussion. Rabb has been a thorn in Shapiro's side for years. In January, he wrote on Instagram, "Governor Shapiro, stop state collaboration with ICE." Rabb spoke at a protest that day aimed at pushing Shapiro, a moderate, to the left on his approach towards immigration and customs enforcement. The rally was staged outside Shapiro's first stop on his book tour. That level of confrontation is rarely seen from Democratic state legislators towards the governor. Rabb also turned heads in 2022 when he didn't immediately shoot down calls from his supporters to challenge Shapiro in that year's gubernatorial primary. In the end, though, he did not run. Behind the scenes, Shapiro has privately advised Philadelphia's building trades union to avoid inadvertently helping Rabb, the lone progressive in the race, by attacking one of the center-left opponents, two of our sources said. The source said Shapiro suggested that the building trades, which are backing another candidate, Sharif Street, avoid running negative ads against a third contender, Alice Stanford. Street and Stanford are seen as traditional Democrats who share similar voters. All right, here's a question. Do we have time? No, got to take a break. Stay with us. Keep those comments coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Watch news from the Twin Tiers and catch local events on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Hi, this is the owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
You deserve primary care that connects. Care that helps you move forward. Care that connects you to world-class specialists. Care that connects you to providers who are part of your community. And care that connects you to the life you love. Because great healthcare comes from providers who care about connection just like you. Find your primary care appointment at centralishealth.org/schedule.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Temperatures in Elmira will warm up into the 50s with showers expected here across the area for our Monday. Not too bad, just shy of 60 further off to the south here for our day. Our average high is 70, so we are definitely cooler than average. We'll get gusty here as we go towards Wednesday, but it's not going to be too bad here initially. We do have that chance for the morning frost. We will start a little bit on the cool side even into Tuesday. Thunderstorms are possible Wednesday and Thursday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. A couple comments from viewers. AOC, please run for president and choose as your VP the World War XI believer. Yes. That was Ilhan Omar, right? A fight against the billionaires. Yes, and World War XI was one heck of a scrap. Thank you very much. Now, who's going to be the next senator from New York? Asks Peter Stern. With Chuck Schumer's popularity waning, the door is open for AOC and others. New York's senior senator was once among the most popular politicians in the state, particularly among Democrats. Just 3 years ago, 71% of Democrats had a favorable view of him, and only 18% had an unfavorable view, according to a Siena poll from May of 2023. But Schumer's star has dimmed considerably since then, with a recent Siena poll finding that just 47% of Democrats have a favorable view of him and 40% have an unfavorable view. The second Trump administration has radicalized the Democratic base, who are increasingly turning against Democrat leaders they see as old, out of touch, and unwilling to aggressively confront President Trump's policies. Schumer is also being left behind with where the Democrat Party's base is moving on Israel. Last year, he said his job is to keep the left pro-Israel. If that's true, then it's not working. According to Pew Research Center, 80% of Democrats now have an unfavorable view of Israel. You heard me right. 80% of Democrats. So it's no longer this kind of marbleism of anti-Semitism, as Van Jones put it. It's the trend. It is where they're at. 80% of Democrats now have an unfavorable view of Israel, compared to 53% who had a negative view of the country back in 2022. Schumer's own colleagues in the Senate are increasingly breaking with him on this issue too. Last month, 40 Senate Democrats voted for a bill to block the sale of $295 million worth of bulldozers to Israel. Schumer was one of only 7 Democrats to vote against it. The bill failed to pass 40-59. The most talked about contender to replace or challenge Schumer, since he has not yet said whether he will run for re-election in 2028, is Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She is 40 years his junior, an outspoken critic of the president and among the most pro-Palestinian House members. She's also a credible challenger, one of the only politicians capable. She's a master of small dollar fundraising with a $14 million war chest with sky-high name recognition and impressive favorability ratings. Quote, if Congressmember Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez chooses to pursue it, she would have a significant advantage, both in her ability to fundraise nationally and in leveraging her strong base of support in New York City to drive voters statewide. Wow. So we could be looking at, and there's speculation, would she primary challenge him? Will he run? Schumer not necessarily popular at the time. We'll keep an eye on that. Now, speaking of AOC, there's 6 different ways that prove the wealthy pay a lot more than their fair share. You know, Bernie Sanders, AOC, it's a constant drumbeat that the rich don't pay their fair share, and we don't need any oligarchs. These are powerful sound bites. They are among the most intellectually lazy phrases in modern economics. Because here's the real question no one answers. What exactly is fair, said Ted Jenkins. Let's start with the facts, which many people don't like to discuss. According to data from the Internal Revenue Service and the Tax Foundation, the top 1% of earners already pay roughly 40% or more of all federal income taxes. The top 10%, closer to 70%. Meanwhile, nearly half of Americans pay little to no federal income tax each year. So when someone says the wealthy don't pay enough, what they're really saying is it's fair that lots of people pay zero and that they want the rich to pay even more than their share. But here's where the conversation gets completely detached from reality, because federal income tax is just the starting line, not the finish line, when we talk about overall taxation. Federal income tax, this is the headline number everyone debates. Top earners face marginal rates up to 37% before you even layer in surtaxes. 2, state income tax. If you live in high state taxes or high tax states, like California, New York, and you can add another 10% to 14% on top of that federal number. Suddenly you're pushing toward a combined rate that rivals some European countries. Congratulations, you're writing a check every year just to keep property. In states like New York or Texas, in states like New Jersey or Texas, property taxes can easily hit $10,000 to $30,000 annually for higher value homes. We're talking 1% to 2% of your home value beyond some states to have personal property taxes. 4, sales tax. Every time you spend, you're taxed again. In places like Tennessee or Washington, combined sales taxes approach 10%. That's post-income tax money being taxed all over again. This sparks the great debate of a fair tax or having a VAT tax, or what some will call a consumption tax. 5, invest wisely, you'll pay for that as well. Federal capital gains rates plus the net investment income tax can push you over 23.8% before state taxes take another bite. This is after you tax after tax in money, invest it well, and then pay tax again. This also affects business owners who build their businesses for years to pay tax on income all along the way, only to potentially be taxed at the highest marginal tax rate when they sell their business that created jobs for people for decades. And finally, 6, estate taxes. Build wealth over a lifetime. The government may take another bite of the apple when you pass on to your heirs. While this doesn't affect as many people, it can be significant for wealthy families. Now let's pause and ask the question. At what point is enough? Is fair when the top 1% pay 50% of all taxes, 60, 80? Does any politician who makes these outlandish statements have a real number? No. The reason? You can't get blood from a stone from people who don't pay it all right now. We're already operating in a system where such a small percentage of Americans fund the majority of government spending. All right. Now, Kamala Harris is in a little bit of a cash crisis. Big donors turned their backs on Harris as a 2028 bid already hangs on by a thread. Political allies and former aides have all shied away from a full-throated endorsement of the failed 2024 presidential nominee, and now it seems her financial backers and sponsors feel the same way. This is being reported by the Los Angeles Times. In scathing interviews from former fundraisers and donors who gave more than $1 million to her 2024 campaign, many seem to look away rather than embrace her as a contender. Quote, I think it's too early to pick a favorite in the 2028 race, but Kamala Harris will not be my candidate, one donor said. I don't think she would appeal to a swing voter, and we need swing voters to win. Wow. I don't think it's a helpful narrative for 2028 to start with a 2024 hangover, said one anonymous fundraiser. There is an enormous appetite for new blood, something fresh, something that really represents the future, not the past. There are already many names being floated as possible Democrat contenders for the White House, but Kamala Harris, who ruled out a run for governor of her home state, has hinted at a possible presidential campaign, saying she, quote, might run. But while she may be considering it, others in her circle, including former backers and supporters, may not be ready to line up behind her. Quote, she's run, she's lost. So the question is going to be, is there somebody that gives Democrat voters more of a sense that they could win? That's all of us are looking for. We want to win in 2028. Now, Kamala Harris and Cory Booker and other Democrats are pushing the DNC to release its 2024 post-mortem. Pressure is mounting on the Democratic National Committee to disclose its 2024 election post-mortem, with even former Vice President Kamala Harris urging the party to do so despite the risk of embarrassment. Shortly after taking over, DNC Chairman Ken Martin ordered an autopsy into his party's 2024 drubbing, but opted to keep that report secret for months, prompting many Democrats to cry foul. Keeping the report buried was widely seen as a way to aid Harris if she were to throw her hat in the 2028 arena, given that it might be politically mortifying for her. But even the ex-vice president has previously told donors she feels it should be public, although she hasn't discussed the issue with Martin. Harris is currently the leading Democrat for 2028, should she run, according to the latest Real Clear Politics rolling aggregate, with a 9.3 percentage point edge over California Governor Gavin Newsom. Yeah, release the autopsy, Cory Booker said on Meet the Press. Fine, DNC, release it. They should do that. But the most important thing is for people to get out and vote in record numbers. All right, we got to take a short break, and we're going to switch over to New York State issues. Get your last minute comments in as we're nearly done with today's edition. Stay with us.
To the me I used to be, before talking to 988.
I felt alone.
I thought seeing hard things was just part of the job. I thought that having a bad day at work meant I was failing. But then I connected with someone at 988.
A real person texted back. Someone listened without judgment.
Now I know. Now I know it's okay to let someone help me too.
And I'm stronger than I thought.
We hear you. Call, text, or chat 988.
Video is the fastest growing form of advertising today. And with hyper-targeting, your marketing dollars can be more efficient than ever. Join WYDC and New Logic Marketing for a digital video strategy seminar May 19th and 20th with sessions from 8 to 9 a.m. and 12 to 1 p.m. at the Radisson in Corning. You'll learn what drives results and how to make video a powerful part of your overall marketing strategy. Join us May 19th for an expert look at digital video and learn what works from experts who understand why.
Maybe it was a family vacation or a school field trip. But there you were, standing in awe at a national park. We are the National Park Foundation, and together with you, we're creating a future where every person, every generation, gets their chance at an unforgettable moment. Today, tomorrow, forever. Learn more at nationalparks.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Some comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. It seems that all progressive platforms are based on lies. They lie about climate change, race, and biology by failing to acknowledge that men can't nurse a child among every other topic known to man. They use the courts only to deny truth. In the Bible, Pontius Pilate asked, "What is truth?" To progressives, the answer is, "Why does that matter?" I'm optimistic, however, because I believe that the truth will win. Comment from a different viewer. Yeah, Democrats tax and give it away to criminals, illegal aliens, and line your money grubbing pockets with our tax dollars. How people can even think these Democrats care about them flabbergasts me. Thank you very much. Okay, by the way, you may want to mark the calendar. Early voting is taking place starting on the 13th through the 21st from the Steuben County Board of Elections. The primary election is just around the corner in Steuben County. Statewide elections are Democrats only. New York State Comptroller, United States House of Representatives, those have a Democrat primary. If you are Republican, that is the local races. So if you are in the town of Campbell, Corning, Irwin, Lindley, Rathbone, you have a primary election. So again, the primary election is June the 23rd. Early voting daily on June 13th through the 21st in Bath only. As I mentioned, there will be county-wide primary races for Democrats. That's New York State Comptroller with incumbent Thomas DiNapoli, then Drew Warshaw and Ra Gohl. And the United States House of Representatives, Kevin Stoker and Aaron Guys, both Democrats. And then that's New York Congressional District number 23. So if you have any questions about who or if you need to vote, but again, if you are a Republican, you have a local primary. If you live in the town of Campbell, Corning, Irwin, Lindley, or Rathbone. Okay. Democrats on the State Energy Committee this last week blocked 6 pieces of legislation from advancing through the legislative process that would provide immediate relief and transparency to New York State ratepayers continuing to face skyrocketing utility costs. Among the measures Democrats stopped from moving to a vote by the full Senate was a piece of legislation known as the Ratepayer Disclosure and Transparency Act, sponsored by State Senator Tom O'Mara, that if enacted would, for the first time, give ratepayers a transparent view of how monthly state-imposed surcharges on their utility bills are being used to fund various clean energy programs, including initiatives mandated under the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. O'Mara, a member of the Senate Energy and Telecommunications Committee, said New York State is spending billions of dollars delivered into state and utility coffers from various state-imposed monthly surcharges on ratepayers. Albany Democrats have pushed forward with a misguided climate agenda without providing any meaningful cost-benefit analysis and by keeping ratepayers in the dark about how their money is being used. Ratepayers need relief now, but they also deserve to know everything about the burden they are shouldering. The Ratepayer Disclosure and Transparency Act I'm sponsoring would give ratepayers a clear view. It would require utility companies to provide a detailed breakdown of the costs associated with state-mandated programs by adding a line-item expense report to ratepayers' utility bills to ensure greater transparency and to ensure that ratepayers can see exactly how their payments go towards funding the Albany Democrat climate agenda. The Senate Republican Conference has repeatedly offered alternative plans and proposals that we believe are more focused on affordability, feasibility, and reliability, and which, if enacted, would better protect ratepayers for the ever-rising costs they're struggling under right now. New York taxpayers need relief and transparency now, and Albany Democrats keep saying no. Also, Bruce Blake, we got to take a break. Stay with us. We're going to wrap up today's discussion, so keep those comments coming in, and we'll be right back after this.
My brother, William Matar, is known for being a good guy. Sweet, caring, a rock. But don't let his calm exterior fool you, because deep within him is a killer instinct. Okay, it's deep within him. Really, really deep. But it's in there, and he uses it to take on big insurance and win. So if you're hurt in a car, call William Matar, my sweet, killer instinct brother. 444-4444.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Temperatures in Elmira will warm up into the 50s with showers expected here across the area for our Monday. Not too bad, just shy of 60 further off to the south here for our day. Our average high is 70, so we are definitely cooler than average. We'll get gusty here as we go towards Wednesday, but it's not going to be too bad here initially. We do have that chance for the morning frost. We will start a little bit on the cool side even into Tuesday. Thunderstorms are possible Wednesday and Thursday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comments from viewers. I'm sick and tired of the lip service of the Democrats' one-party rule here in New York State. Transparency, worried about lowering utility rates they caused. All lies and lip service for votes. Thank you very much. Ken writes in, I laughed like heck at the comment I heard over the weekend from Spartacus, meaning Cory Booker. He said that Kamala's chances for winning the presidency were hurt by not having a primary. Apparently, he didn't remember that when Kamala was in a primary, she didn't receive a single vote. Yeah, she didn't make it far enough to actually be voted on. She had that one quote-unquote good debate performance, and I guess she didn't think that everybody was going to turn on her at the next debate, and she was not prepared, and of course eventually had to drop out. Bruce Blakeman said Kathy Hochul was perfectly happy letting students lose critical scholarships and servers lose their hard-earned tips until I called her out. Now she's suddenly copying my homework. Kathy, if you want more tips on how to govern or how to actually deliver an on-time budget, just ask, said Bruce Blakeman. He trashed also over the weekend Mamdani as un-American. One of the first acts as mayor was to change the definition of anti-Semitism. We don't have enough problems in the city. That was the first thing he had to do. He's got a dark heart. He's an un-American and he's anti-Semitic. And he's got to change or otherwise the city will rise up against him because this is a city of good people. This is a city of every race, religion, ethnic group, people of all abilities and lifestyles. And they should all be living together in peace and harmony, not have a mayor that divides us. The Post editorial board says that as state budget negotiations enter the final lap, potentially, Governor Hochul is belatedly saying that public employee unions shouldn't get all their utterly outrageous pension giveaway demands. Yay? The unions call it fixed Tier 6, but it amounts to undoing the Tier 6 reforms passed over a decade ago, granting retroactive benefits to employees who took their jobs knowing what the pension plan was, at a cost of $100 billion to future state and local taxpayers. The existing benefits beat almost anything in the private sector. Why lower the retirement age from 62 to 55? Why eliminate the small amount that workers need to pay in towards their pension? Team Hochul pegs the full cost of the union wish list at $1.5 billion a year, while her counteroffer, such as a retirement age of 60, would only slam taxpayers for $500 million annually. Oops, we guess the unions shouldn't have just asked for $5 billion, then she'd have offered just $2 billion. Mind you, whatever the unions get now, they'll simply be trying for more next year. The only way to avoid them rolling back the reform completely is to never give an inch. This is why New York had to do a Tier 6. Over the last half century, the unions have eviscerated the Tier 2, 3, 4, and 5 platforms. They never relent, and eventually Albany hands out the candy. Indeed, the endless cycle of scams shows why the Empire State should move all public pensions from 19th century defined benefit plans to modern 401k style defined contribution ones, which is all that most taxpayers have. That should be Hochul's counteroffer, not a scheme to only partially betray the people of New York. Now they ask the question, who is going to be New York's next governor? Now, this is in reference to Blakeman. This is looking at the Democrat side of things. While Governor Hochul isn't going anywhere, the race to succeed her could be wide open. They're talking about, you guessed it, Zohran Mamdani. Wow. Some members of Congress, some local officials. Interesting. 5 law firms handling New York pension cases gave DiNapoli about $500,000. We had his opponent on. Well, he's still got a primary. So that's what we're talking about with the upcoming primary. But wow, we are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Thank you for the commentary. We'll be back tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. with Frankly Speaking, only at WYDC TV Big Fox. We'll see you tomorrow bright and early. Look forward to it already.
They say when you love doing something, it stops being a chore. Ferris mowers with patented front and rear suspension are designed to turn hard work into an easy ride, no matter how rough the terrain. Quality cut, less fatigue, more control. Feels like the grass can't grow fast enough. Feels like a Ferris.
Glass Festa Park, presented by Simmons Rockwell. Friday, May 22nd, it's award-winning country music powerhouse Drake White with soulful country entertainer John King opening. Friday, May 22nd in Riverfront Centennial Park in Corning. Free and open to the public. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.